I haven't said anything negative about Graham Mertz.
Whoa,
Go back through it. Go back through it.
My memory's not good enough to remember, but I think you might have spoken on the way that he was looking during spring ball that he looked bad. If I recall back to April.
But I did not crap on him like you did.
Okay. I did crap on him. I mean, I didn't think he was very good at Wisconsin. Wait. Okay.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Is my mic okay? Can you hear me?
It's kind of choppy.
Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah, all right. Do you need to drop down?
Yeah, let me drop down 1 second.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk Florida and Utah. Just my thoughts right quick on this. We just discussed this, okay? But I fully am to the point where when you talk about Deion and the vast change that they just had, okay, versus what Billy Napier is now doing, Joe, they looked so bad offensively. Now, I will say this. They moved the football on Utah more than I thought some people thought that they would, okay? Graham Mertz throwing for over 300 yards. I mean, I don't think I was expecting that. But they continuously shot themselves in the foot, Joe. And Florida's just not a good team. They're not a good team. Let me ask you this, Joe. What would you say if LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Tennessee, USC, Oregon, if they lost to two quarterbacks, second and third string dudes, and they lost to them, you would be ripping them alive. Billy Napier deserves a lot of criticism today.
Do I sound okay, by the way?
Menza. Keep going.
Okay. People in the chat are saying I sound fine. So I don't know if it's something wrong with your headphones. But here's one of the things that I had said leading up to this game. It's not so much that I wasn't in on Graham Mertz. I think that Graham Mertz could have looked better, and I think that he could have been a key important part of this game, which he was. He was a lot of their offensive production. He was a big reason why they almost kind of pulled back in at the end. He did make some bad mistakes. But the biggest thing why they won last year is because Anthony Richardson was a crazy athlete who put the team on his back and ran all over Utah. And as good as Graham Mertz could have been in this game and made improvements, he was not going to be able to be enough to beat Utah single-handedly. Florida fans didn't want to admit this, and Florida fans got all upset and hot and bothered when I said this, that there is so much poor depth on that team, and there are way too many young players for them to show up and beat a well-coached, physical, defensively dominant, despite being hindered by injuries, Utah team. That is a recipe for disaster. That was why I picked Florida, and it played out exactly as I predicted. That Graham Mertz was going to maybe make some nice plays, but he wasn't going to be enough. Cole Bishop, by the way, the safety for Utah, was smacking dudes all day. He's a big reason why they won. I give a lot of credit to him, and I give a lot of credit to Nate Johnson, who I think they should build out a whole package for him. That kid should come into the game every other series. Just read option the way that they did against Florida.
Okay, maybe it is just me, Joe, but you kind of are breaking up, but we can push through it. Okay. So look, I look at this game in a lot of different ways. Okay. Graham Mertz was not as bad as people thought he was. 31 of 44. Joe, they had 4 first downs that got called back, okay, during the game because of penalties. But they're so badly coached. This game to me has nothing to do with Utah and has everything to do with Florida. Everything. The simple fact that Billy Napier and company had multiple dudes with the same number on special teams. Joe, yeah. What are they doing? Look, there has been a lot of criticism on Billy, and it's rightfully deserved. I don't know what else you want me to say. They tried to run the football. They couldn't. 21 attempts, 10 of those being with Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson is not enough. I don't care that both of them are only having 2, 3, 4 yards per carry. I don't care about that. Keep the ball away from Utah. You're not going to be able to, with this unit, to go out there and throw on everybody and think that you can win. Joe, they might win 4 games. They may win 4 games because the schedule that they have is so brutal that I don't want to overreact. And everybody keeps saying that, all right, well, he's recruiting at a high level. Those kids are not going to come in next year and do anything either. They're not. DJ Lagway's not going to come in there and throwing the ball all over the place to where they're capable of where Florida should be. Joe, there is no business whatsoever that year in and year out that Florida should win 8 and 9 games, possibly double digits. Dan Mullen was doing it. We saw that. They were worried about him recruiting. Okay, well, he had continued to do what he was doing every single year. They should have let it play out. Dan did not deserve to be fired, man. They had one subpar year, and they kicked him to the curb. And they went and hired a guy who's running a high school offense. This pistol shit that he's running out there, this isn't the Wild West, Billy. You're not the kid. I'll let you country people put that one together. They are not a good team from top to bottom. Now, defensively, Joe, like I told you, defensively up front, they're not that bad. They have dudes.
They don't have a lot of speed on their defensive line, and that kind of showed up. By the way, the chat does look like they're saying I do sound fine. Somebody said, unfortunately, they can hear me loud and clear.
All right, here's just me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to maybe unplug your headphones and plug them back in. While you're doing that,
it's like the StreamYard thing. You know how like you get robotic?
Oh, maybe it's the internet on your end then.
Probably.
Here's something that you're not going to like. And I said this after the game. I did a reaction video after the game. And I said this, and a lot of Florida fans, some of them agreed with it. I read an article the morning of the game, and one of the things that had been emphasized by the athletic administration for Florida is that they were going to be as patient as possible with Billy Napier, which I know that maybe that's not a good decision in your eyes, but they have rushed through every single coaching hire since Urban left. Every single coach that has been there has been rushed in and out of the door. And look, as much as Dan Mullen has put together a good product on the field, he was not up to par in recruiting, and that shit was going to catch up to him really quick. Florida fans, as we just talked about a second ago, Coach Prime has made a really unrealistic expectation, but some teams, when the roster is in disarray, it's going to take 3 years, Blake. It's not going to be an immediate thing back to elite level playing. It's just not going to. It's going to take time. I saw a lot of young talent on the team on the field. I saw some good splash plays from some of their young players, but they made a bunch of dumb, young, inexperienced mistakes. That's what that punt return issue was, and the false starts. All of those things are just inexperienced.
That punt return thing is a coaching thing, Joe. It has nothing to do with players.
The kid, I would have told the damn kid to get a new number. I'm not doing the change the jersey thing before you got to return
Florida
kick.
issues the numbers. The coaching staff's got to know. That is not an excuse on a player.
It's both. It's both. It's
not.
The kid doesn't need to be wearing number 3.
Joe, if you have multiple players on the same field with the same number, that falls on one person and one person only, Billy.
They're going to give Billy time. They're going to give him at least one more year.
Sounds good. Continue to lose. I don't care what they do. I hate Florida. What do I care? As an LSU fan, I hate their guts. What do I care? Joe, they are not good. They are abysmal. And this whole notion that they want to give him time, please, dear God.
You know who else stunk early on that's in the same exact state that is right now being brought up in the national championship conversation?
If you say
Mike Norvell and Florida State. Mike Norvell and Florida State.
Just because it's happening in the same state. Joe, I will tell you one thing. They never looked that bad.
They lost to Jacksonville State.
Sure. They lost to Jacksonville State. who is now an FBS team, a team
They
that
weren't at the time. They were not at the time, and that was during a COVID year when they weren't playing it. That was their like singular game of the season.
Just because it happened in the same state doesn't mean that they get a pass.
It doesn't matter if it's in the same state or not. It's just a matter of there is precedent that obviously, yes, Brian Kelly can get the team up to par. Lincoln Riley can get the team up to par and competing and being a top 15 team. But success is not the same in every location, especially when we look at the way that the rosters were left to them by the previous coaching staffs. I think by next year,
Florida was
they can be vastly
in dire
improved.
need when Billy took over.
They looked terrible last year.
Yeah, Joe. Let me give you a quick history lesson, just in case you don't remember. He made players hit the door. Billy let players hit the door and said that they don't fit his culture. Well, your culture's getting your ass kicked. There is no excuse, zero excuse for Florida to go out there against a third-string quarterback and let him whip their ass up and down the field. Zero. If this were anybody else, we'd be saying, oh, well, that just simply can't happen, baby. But because it's Billy and because everybody says that they're going to let him do it,
I disagree. I think that because it's Florida, naturally, just like your reaction and being an SEC fan and covering an SEC team, your reaction is going to be that there should be immediate winning. I think I'm in the minority here of folks that think that he should be given time. There are results that can be found with the way that he is recruiting. There are plenty of coaches, examples that we can point to that when they were given 3 to 4 years to rebuild the roster their way, it eventually leads to success. I just think that Mike Norvell is the best example that we can point to.